Hello and welcome back to yet another SokoChain episode, where on this episode we are breaking down the ideas that are shaping Africa's digital future simply, honestly, and with context. On today's conversation, it sits at the intersection of AI, trust, and ownership. Artificial intelligence becomes more powerful and capable of generating data, generating contracts, and even identities. A big question emerges: how do we prove what's real? And more importantly, who owns what's in the world? That's where real world asset tokenization enters the conversation. In today's episode, I'm joined by Trevor, who's the founder of AlphabloQ. AlphabloQ is a company working at the forefront of tokenizing real world assets, including real estate. Together, we're going to explore what tokenization actually means beyond the buzzwords, and how AI is shaping global systems, and why trust is becoming the most valuable asset of our time, and how blockchain and decentralization may offer the infrastructure needed for the next phase of the digital economy. This conversation is not a technical conversation, it's a practical one. It's about access, ownership, and the future that look like for everyday person, especially in these emerging markets like Africa. So let's get into it. Welcome, Trevor.
Hi, Faith.
Hi, how are you?
How you doing? I'm good. How you doing?
I'm very
Thanks for that
let
intro. I like the fact that we're going to be thinking through these aspects of ownership in the future of AI because it's not, I don't think it's a, I think a lot of people are not aware of what's coming, and it's going to be a difficult next 10 years for everyone.
yeah, I can only
Mm.
imagine. As we are interacting with AI on a day-to-day, and we get to look at it from like a shallow point of view of prompting AI to give you ideas on something, or even to give you response to certain things. It sounds interesting, but then if you
Mm.
really sit and think what this thing, let me call it that, is capable of, you just
Yeah.
I can't imagine the world that we're getting into. It's gonna be
Mm.
crazy. And when you listen to conversations, or even sometimes when you look at videos online, and it looks very realistic, and this is it's an AI generated concept, maybe a video or something, and it's of someone saying something, then
Mm.
brings all of us to the point of what are we actually getting ourselves into, and are we even ready
Mm. Yeah, yeah. That's
as a
are we
people?
ready? I think is the hardest perspective to really dig into because I don't think there's anyone who's ready. There's no regulators, no
Yeah.
institutions, maybe a few individuals, maybe, but no one really knows what's coming. So I think no one is ready.
I can't, like, I don't know. I don't know if to say I can't wait. There's just that aspect of anxiety when you really
Mm-hmm,
sit and
mm-hmm,
think
mm-hmm.
about it.
Yeah.
But anyway, what can we do? We just have to learn and cope and find a way to coexist, because AI is here and it's not going anywhere. We just hope it won't be one of
Exactly.
those um, apocalypse movies where AI takes over and we have no control of our financial systems, our medical systems, or if, like, basically anything, and we're just there, and AIs are just speaking to each other and taking over the world.
I think that's where we're headed, but hopefully there's some ways we can protect ourselves from
Yeah.
that future. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let's kickstart our conversation today. We're talking.
Mm-hmm.
I've had you speak at several events, and I
Mm-hmm.
always find it very interesting the knowledge that you carry when it comes to tokenization and AI. These are two topics that you're very passionate about, and somebody can pick that from the way you speak. So I'm just
Mm.
hoping through this conversation, our viewers and our listeners will also get to learn and pick a few nuggets here and there to understand
Yeah.
what tokenization is, and what
Yeah.
we are getting into when we talk about AI. Because I'm sure everyone right now in the world has heard about AI, but understanding what the future holds for all of us is why we're having this conversation today.
Mm.
So I want us to start from the point where you first heard about blockchain technology, because blockchain is what carries tokenization, and it's what
Yeah.
also pushes forward the whole idea of artificial intelligence. So
Yeah.
tell us your story, Trevor. When was the first time you encountered the word blockchain technology?
Yeah. Wow. The first time, the first time I encountered blockchain was when I heard about Bitcoin in 2017. Was it 2017? Yes, in 2017. And you know how people have these events where they're saying, oh, wealth management event. So it was like a Bitcoin event, but sort of positioned as there are wealth managers that are showing you there's this investment that can make money.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the name of the company, but it ended up being one of those companies that were like well known for the biggest scams in the world. I wanted to put my money, and I'm so grateful that I did not give them my money. But then I still continued to learn about Bitcoin because everyone was sort of interested in this thing that made millionaires overnight. So I was keeping my
Mm.
tabs on it. And when I
Yeah.
started to learn what Bitcoin or how Bitcoin was made and what decentralized ledger technology or blockchains are,
Yeah.
um, I got I got a bit of a shock because the one thing that stuck with me was it eliminates middlemen.
Mm.
Now, I've been in the fintech space for the last 13 or so years.
Yeah.
I've set up a microfinance, money remittance business. These businesses have are basically middlemen, especially the remittance company. It's called Upesi Money Transfer.
Yeah.
So I'm currently sitting as a vice chairman. I have to be in charge of ensuring that the strategies are in line with, where we're going in the future. And when I read and hear that there's something that's going to kill my business model, which remittance, if I give you the just how all remittance companies work, is there's someone who wants to send money on this side, someone else who wants to receive money on this side. Then there's a company on this side of the world that collects the money. There's another company on this side of the world that will distribute the money.
Mm-hmm.
So we distribute money onto the African continent as Upesi. We're a
Okay.
middleman of another middleman. So it's even worse. So in my head,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer money system.
Mm-hmm.
We are a middleman that enables the movement of money. I have
Mm.
to understand what this means for our business model.
Yeah.
So I went in to understand decentralization, how centralized entities have evolved over the last few, centuries actually. And also I got to learn, which I'm very happy that was my that's the point that I got to learn about decentralization. I got to
Mm-hmm.
understand how centralization has led to things like poverty, how it has led to things like inequality, institutions that don't actually deliver value but are able to control
Yeah.
policymakers and lawmakers to maintain the status quo. And so I'm like, okay, so it's not just a way to make money, it's actually the technology that will change the world. And
Mm.
that's when I got hooked. And that's when I realized that, okay, I think I'm lucky to have been in the fintech space because I
Mm.
can see that this is going to affect my business. So I have a reason to really, a monetary reason, have
Yeah.
incentive to go and figure out how to manage the business models to be protected in this environment.
Yeah.
But also, in doing that, I can also contribute to changing the world for better. And that's what really excited me about it.
That's quite interesting. I like your journey because it has given a very um, interesting and contextual
Mm,
explanation of what blockchain technology is all about. To somebody who has never interacted, or they don't have an
yeah.
understanding blockchain technology is, from that introduction, they can be able to understand what the technology is all about and the aspect of centralization, decentralization, and what the technology is coming to do. And
Hmm.
I like what you said. The driving factor was the fact that you are affected as an intermediary, and it
Mm,
drove you, or rather, it gave you the urge to want to understand what this new technology is all about. But then
Mm,
you went ahead. We've heard about Upesi, but today we're going to talk about the branding that is on your T-shirt.
mm,
You, from your other business of remittance, you've interacted with all of that. But then this idea of you starting to, rather getting into tokenization, where did that come from? Considering
mm.
your background is in fintech and you're already running a remittance business, it could have been easier to just come on board and build another remittance business on blockchain. But why
Mm.
the shift to tokenization?
Yeah. So majority of our remittance volumes were actually going into real estate. So we have
Mm,
customers from UAE, we have customers from Europe, North America, and they send money either to pay for mortgages, they send money to, well, the top three reasons would be upkeep, sending money back home for upkeep, sending
yeah.
money back home to pay bills, but also investments.
Mm,
So we saw if all these blue collar workers, white collar workers are sending money home, what
yeah.
normally happens is I'm going to call an agent and I hope that this agent will be telling me the truth or giving my money to the right place. For example, some people will be sending money monthly to buy cement, to buy wood, so that they
Mm,
can build their house because
yeah.
they want to come back home and retire. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, if blockchain is a technology that also enhances trust and auditability, instead of you being in the diaspora and hoping that where you're sending money is actually where your money is going, why don't we create a platform that enables these customers to just send money into these assets via a trusted platform? And that's
Mm,
how the idea of AlphabloQ was born, because we realized real estate is something that Africans really love.
yeah.
Real estate is something that people also really want to invest in but cannot invest in it.
Mm,
And the reason why they can't invest in it is because it is expensive. Mortgages are expensive. The asset is also expensive. So what we do is then bring these assets that are out of reach, hard to verify, and just
mm,
break it down into fractions and allow people to invest from anywhere in the world.
mm. That's quite really interesting what you've said, and I like how um, you chose an area that is very core to us as Africans. We know real estate, and from the aspect of even looking at assets, like people want to
Mm,
acquire something that they can see. They want land, they
exactly.
want a house, they want, yeah. So using that and helping to bring more people on chain using that route, that's a very interesting concept. Now, for somebody
Mm,
who doesn't understand tokenization, this is a word that if you take it as it is, maybe the token we understand is, KPLC tokens. what
I
is
have heard that over and
what
over
is
again. Yeah.
what is tokenization?
Yeah. Honestly, the Web3 industry uses complex words, I think, to sound smart. But
Yeah.
if you think about digitizing anything, let's say you have a letter. Before we used to send letters via post.
Mm,
Then now you have email. So email is a digitized letter that
yeah.
you can send to someone
Mm,
with a touch of a button. So now let's take real estate, for example. Now, real estate can be digitized. So all you need to do is, instead of someone coming to talk to you, Faith, and say, "Oh, how
yeah.
much rent is your apartment earning? What were the issues, management issues that happened? Maybe you had plumbing issues, or you had a break-in once upon a time," and all that is
Mm,
written on a piece of paper.
yeah.
So when you digitize real estate, you're basically saying that all the information or the
Mm,
events or basically the data of the asset
mhm,
is put onto a system, onto a database somewhere. It could be
yeah.
on Excel or it could be on an app like Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the only difference between digitizing and tokenizing is that the
Mm,
database is the blockchain.
mm,
But the power of the blockchain is that that database enables the asset to be verified without needing intermediaries. So you don't need an auditor, you don't need a legal person to verify that, yes, on this day, the rent was paid, and because rent was paid legally, you are safe. Or this day, rent was not paid, so legally, you're not safe. All these things sort of come into the system to allow for subsequent transactions to happen automatically without
Mm,
needing like an auditor, for example. So if I want to know what is the value of Faith's apartment,
yeah,
I don't have to call an auditor to come and check, oh, how much rent was paid every single month. What was the net operating income of the asset? Because all that information is captured on the blockchain, I can
yeah,
trust that the information I am seeing is correct, and hence I can do a valuation. Well, at least from that data that's available online, I can do a
yeah.
valuation from anywhere in the world and trust that this data is correct. So
Mm,
tokenizing puts the same data that you typically have on a normal database. Let's talk about Airbnb, where you say, I want to rent,
yeah.
and uh, puts it onto the blockchain, which is a different type of database that just
Mm,
means no one can tamper with that information. Because today, everyone is tampering with all sorts of financial information. How much
yeah,
rent did the asset actually make? How will you know whether the person did lied or not? You call an auditor.
yeah.
You see? So the blockchain now serves as the auditor in this case.
Mm. Interesting. And I like what you've said, and I feel like it answers what the question I was gonna ask you next, because I wanted to ask you, why should an average person care about tokenization? And that answers it in the most simplest way, the aspect of trust. Because we've said,
Yes.
as we started, the conversation is about trust, and you find as
Yes.
in the conversation, everything we say is just gonna circle back into trust. Even when you
Good.
were doing
As
an
it
introduction
should.
thing about how centralized systems are, you find that
Mm,
the main missing thing is usually the aspect of trust.
yes.
So for somebody who's wondering why they should even consider tokenization, is trust. You can trust
Mm,
this process because you know, first of all, there's accurate data, as you've said. It's
exactly.
tamper proof. Nobody can be able to change it. It's transparent. Anyone can be able to see. And I like what you said, even tying it to. I feel now I see the correlation between Upesi and AlphaBlock, because you said most people are sending money to build or to acquire assets in different ways. So you
Mm,
find, yeah, these cases of you're working abroad, you've been sending money home to somebody that you trust to build you a home, then you come and you find it's some shady structure, or they didn't
yes.
even build. But I
Mm.
like that. I like what you said about what tokenization is. And if you can just tell us briefly now, how does AlphaBlock come in helping in tokenizing um, real assets? And are you tokenizing, or have you thought of tokenizing other assets aside from just real estate?
Yeah, definitely. So the objective of Alpha Block is actually not just for real estate, but simply to enable people to create wealth. So open up the opportunities of wealth creation. The benefits of using a platform like AlphaBlock is, number one, the entry point for assets like real estate or government bonds will be way less than your typical transaction requirement to invest in those assets. So for real estate, for example, you say your average real estate asset in Kenya is $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
Majority of the continent does not have $100,000 sitting waiting for an investment. So what do they currently do? They go look for a loan.
Mm-hmm.
But the other problem is the loan is extremely expensive. The loan would actually mean you're consistently at a loss if you're trying to buy real estate using a loan.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So what we do is we break the value of that asset into fractions so that you can start earning income and owning a piece or a share, seem like just a normal stock market share of this
Yeah.
asset. The only difference is that share is on the blockchain, which is now called a token, and
Mm-hmm.
you get the income from that asset. You can do the same for bonds. For government, maybe even corporate bonds, you find that maybe an entry point for a corporate bond is 7 million shillings. Again, not everyone has 7 million shillings to put into an investment. But this corporate bond might be paying you 20% per annum. So again, you are making good money, and but the opportunity is not available for you as an individual because you don't have the 7 million shillings. So we break down the value of that bond into fractions that allows you to invest. And then, of
Mm-mm.
course, if you're in the diaspora, for example, you're
Yeah.
still going to have so many fees. You have your remittance fee, then you have the onboarding fee if you're going to work with an investment bank who is selling you the corporate bond. You have all these fees that eat into your returns. But if you're
Mm.
using the blockchain, we can reduce those fees, and hence we provide the best fees to make sure that you're able to access these assets affordably.
Mm.
And long-term goal, of course, is to enable cheap credit. So today, for an individual who doesn't own a car or a piece of land or real estate, your only hope is that your bank will give you a loan backed by your salary. Maybe
Mm.
you're working in a corporate that the bank can go and do a credit score on and say that, yes, we'll give you a loan. But remember, a lending institution is another intermediary. So in this
Yeah.
case, when it comes to AlphabloQ, you can get peer-to-peer funded loans. Now, that makes the loans very cheap because maybe
Mm.
Faith is having a bit more liquidity in her wallet. And she says, oh, I like real estate, but also I don't mind making a bit more money by maybe taking a bit more risk by giving Trevor a loan that is backed by real estate. So
Mm.
you know the loan is secured.
Mm.
You know the loan is secured by an asset that's also income generating. It's not a dead asset like a piece of land somewhere in our villages, but
Yeah.
it's also an asset that you like. So you'd say, if worst case come like if, in a worst case scenario, if Trevor defaults, I
Yeah.
get the token in return. So you still get real estate back
Mm.
as a last case scenario. So you as a real estate investor not only are interested in the asset, but you're able to provide loans to people if you have extra liquidity to
Mm.
people who want loans backed by real estate. Now, the important thing is that typically, if you are not going to do an asset backed loan, you probably get an unsecured loan, maybe from Branch or Tala, any digital lender.
Yeah.
And most likely it will be more expensive than your traditional bank loan. But if it is a peer-to-peer loan, you can cut out that intermediary, which is an extra fee that
Yeah.
increases the percentage, and get a much better or more affordable loan. So again, the goal is to enable Africans to own assets and to use
Yeah.
those assets as leverage for loans.
I like that. I like that. And I like the aspect that no, we're not looking at assets as unattainable just because we're young people and we don't have because let's face it, a lot has happened, inflation has happened. If you listen to our parents' stories and their parents, they used to acquire land for a very small amount of money. Okay,
Yes.
we can reason that money was not accessible as easily as it is right now, but it was still
Mm.
kidogo. You could find property for 1,000 bob, 4,000 bob,
Yeah.
5,000. But right now, that's not possible. And you find the least
Mm.
you can get is from 200K going upwards. And that's a stretch. Or even the place you buy, maybe not to sound wrong, but it's inhabitable. Like, because it's
Mm.
and we need to be in an area whereby as young people you can still have access to certain things for us to be able to work. So
Mm.
coming to the knowledge of us, we're in a world where we have access to such information and access to platforms like AlphabloQ, whereby we can be able to acquire assets from kidogo fractions here and there, and we
Mm.
up our portfolio as we grow. It's really good and really commendable for you guys. So I
Mm.
want us to get into the giant of this conversation and of the world where we're going. And I just want you to tell us, do you think, is there any correlation between AI and tokenization from where you sit?
Yes. Oh, yes, definitely. Because where the world is going is well, over the last, let's say, 70 years or so, we've lived in a very inflationary environment. So
Yeah.
our income has not kept up with the value or the costs, well, the value of assets or the cost of living. And
Mm.
so for us, yes, money is more accessible, but it's actually more accessible because there's more printed money in the system. For our parents, money was
Yeah.
slightly less accessible, but also assets were cheaper. Now, because there's more money in the system, those assets became more expensive. And for
Yeah.
us who didn't start investing from when we were 1 years old, which is basically everyone, we have not been able to keep up with this inflation.
Yeah.
But the weird thing is where we are going now over the next 10 to 20 years, and it is already starting, is we are going to go into a deflationary environment. And
Yeah.
worst of all is a lot of people will not have an income because they'll not have jobs.
Mm.
They will be replaced by AI agents or AI frameworks. So
That's
yeah, I think the best example that I've seen for deflation is the calculator. In the 40s, a calculator was an expensive piece of computer hardware.
yeah.
And then in the 60s, people were like, okay, may I have a calculator? It costs maybe $40. And then in the 90s, you have now different types of calculators. You have the normal one, you have the scientific one. The
Yeah.
scientific one is expensive. Those people who have scientific calculators are, are like, okay, you're serious in maths, huh? But now calculators are free. They come with phones. They come even, you can probably find it in a TV app.
Yeah.
So now let's look at where we are going. So that's where that's a deflationary event that happened for a specific product.
Mm.
Now look at cars. China is coming in with extremely good cars for half the price of German cars. You find a Chinese car is self-driving. It has all the bells and whistles that a German car has. It even has more because it will maybe you can open the door with a hand gesture, close the door with a hand gesture, speak to it and tell it to open the map and it will drive you to wherever you want. And it is
Yeah.
half the price of the similar model of a BMW or a Mercedes. Now, what what does that mean over the next few years? It means
Mm.
cars will become cheaper.
Yeah.
Um, Planes will become cheaper. Houses will slowly start becoming cheaper, but we're lucky with houses because population is growing. So
Mm.
there's that aspect of the income from the houses coming in. But deflation is really going to affect our ability to maintain the value that we're doing. Now, if that happens, we lose jobs, value
Mm.
of many things become cheaper and cheaper. We may not need so much money to live the lives that we want to live.
Mm.
So you don't have to spend so much to travel to work every day. You don't have to
Yeah.
spend so much to get good food onto your plate. You don't have to spend so much to have a roof over your head.
Mm.
But the challenge will be is you don't have income because you've lost your job to an AI agent. So governments will have to find a way to distribute the wealth because unfortunately you will not have income, but there'll be people who have built AI companies that will become extremely wealthy over a very short period of time.
Yeah.
So wealth will concentrate very quickly and towards those people who are controlling these AI models. Now, for us normal people who are not building AI models or AI data centers,
Yeah.
the government will have to find a way to maintain our source of income, our source of livelihood. Otherwise, it will be total chaos. Everyone will be rioting, people will be stealing from each other. It will
Mm.
literally lead to a world where no one can control anything because everyone is fighting for their own survival, basically. So, what will the government do? They have to find a way to distribute that wealth. Now, we all know how things work when it comes to governments distributing money. It
Yeah.
depends on whether you know someone or whether you're providing something that's an essential service.
Yeah.
But if we want to distribute that wealth in a way that's equitable, we have to be able to provide a system that cannot be corrupted, a system
Mm.
of distributing wealth or ownership in assets that cannot be corrupted. And that's what the blockchain will provide. So
Yeah.
governments will start looking for ways to distribute this wealth and And if you already own some assets, let's say you own a phone,
Mm.
that's an asset. You
Yeah.
can find a way to use your phone and plug it into a maybe a cloud data center to mine some tokens or to power some AI agents, because technology will get that good soon.
Yeah.
But if the governments don't have a way to prove that it is you who's doing this and not some Chinese data farm that's bought 100 phones and is just doing the same thing, then there's no way they'll know whether they're giving you the income that you deserve or they're giving it to a Chinese or another company or some bad actors that are doing the same thing that's supposed to generate your income, your
Yeah.
deserved income. Another key aspect for tokenization is, as this wealth is created, what you as an individual, and I think we are living in a time of transition, we
Mm.
have to put we have to put our existing wealth into assets that will ride this new wave of technological advancement. So
Mm.
assume today um, we're not going to have cars becoming more expensive. So don't buy cars. Cars are not investments. Those are, I think nowadays people have understood that a car is a liability. But
Ability.
you'll
Yeah.
find, because of deflation, a lot of things will become liabilities.
Yeah.
You'll find that in the stock market today, software as a service businesses,
Mm.
their valuations will start going down. Because
Mm.
AI can build you an Excel app, AI can build you a project management app. So why do you need to pay
Mm.
$20 per user per month for a SaaS? So a lot of these don't buy some stocks that are not going to be devalued because of this innovation that's happening. So
Mm.
buy the assets or invest in the assets that will ride that wave.
Yeah.
So we as AlphabloQ will ensure that we're only tokenizing assets that will participate in this new future. And if you invest at the right time, it means you're going to be coming in just before this wave starts. And as the
Mm.
wave continues to grow, assume you lost your job, you
Yeah.
know that you've put your assets in a productive, you've put your money in productive assets that are also going to be able to pay you and supplement your income. So we are at the transition where tokenization can actually create a life raft, if
Yeah.
if if orchestrated well, to enable people to own assets that
Mm.
will be a part of this new future, and hence this new wealth. And actually, it's about $4 trillion of new wealth that will be created over the next 20 years,
Yeah.
globally, of course. That if we don't do it right, will be centralized into a few people. If we do
Mm.
it right, everyone can participate and grow their wealth through this new innovation space that we're
Mm.
going into. And then that means everyone becomes rich.
Mm. How
Yeah.
you say, unless we do it right, it's how we will avoid centralization of power. By how we do it right, what do you mean, and do we how are we able to analyze and see, oh, this is a good, I like what you've said in terms of software as a service and analyzing stock
Mm.
markets, but how can we be able to identify the right places so that we can hook ourselves? And it's not financial advice, we are sharing this for
Mm.
educational purposes and understanding. How can we be able to analyze so that we can peg ourselves to something that we know is gonna, as you said, ride in the wave of the change, so we are not caught unawares when this happens and wealth is only concentrated um, with a few people? How do we identify that?
It's going to be extremely difficult, but for me, I believe in the power of community. So
Mm.
assume Faith has a friend who is doing farming,
Mm-hmm.
and they are currently doing farming in a very traditional way.
Yeah.
And then you hear of something called autonomous farms, and you're like, hey, dude, why don't you try and look into this autonomous farm idea and see whether you can plug it into your existing business? And I'll go
Mm-hmm.
and look for investors on AlphabloQ so that you can put money into this autonomous farm. Now, this
Mm.
autonomous farm, unfortunately, will not hire any employees. But one individual came with one idea, pitched it to
Yeah.
the rest of the community, and the community came and said, ah, this is interesting. Let's invest. Then you go and find someone else has said, hey, I've heard that Uber is cutting
Mm,
out all the drivers.
mm,
Why don't we, and this is the driver who's saying that, why don't we start our own investment group and
mm.
start our own self-driving autonomous ride-hailing app?
Yeah.
So you find the community will have their own problems that they identify, because
Mm,
you can't expect one entity to find all these solutions.
mm,
If today we had the best research team, we still will not find all the solutions that can enable people to hook themselves, as you said, and ride that wave. It
mm,
will have to come from the community that is experiencing those problems themselves. And for us, we just provide the engine that allows it to be, you can bring the ownership levels to be trustworthy and the money
yeah,
to move into those assets in a way that is easy to flow and easy to
mm,
manage. And then the yield or the returns of that asset is brought back to the individual investors in a fair way and auditable way. So you'll
mm,
find that, again, if an opportunity came up in Ghana,
mm.
why should we as Kenyans feel like we can't access that opportunity? We should. So you
Yeah.
call the Ghanaians, they said, hey, there's some liquidity, extra liquidity here in Kenya. We're willing to invest.
Mm,
Now, so the power of community, or sort of creating a hive mind where everyone's ideas sort of bring out the best of what is happening on the ground, and we choose the best things that are happening on the ground and allocate resources into those initiatives. But the hard part is
yeah.
actually ensuring the initiatives are productive, because over the long period of time, there's many things that can happen: political risk, implementation risk. Now,
Um,
those are some of the aspects that we can advise and make sure that, we're working with investment advisors or technologists that understand these things so that we can reduce the risk. But I think the true power will come through the community.
Well, I like what you've said. As you're speaking, my mind is just going into places, and I'm thinking, whoa, where am I? Am I
Mm.
somebody who actually understands this and I've started looking into what the future might look like for me? Or am I one of those people who will be caught unawares? But anyway, that's food for thought.
Yeah, exactly. And our
But
goal should be, as a community, to make sure we educate people so that no one is caught unaware.
yes, I
People will
hundred
lose
percent.
jobs, and we need to make that clear for everyone.
Yeah, that's quite true. And I like in my view, I feel like as much as a lot is changing, somehow we are going back to how things used to be, because it got to a
Mm,
point where the aspect of community really disappeared, and we've been living, or rather we're still living in the world of my thing, one man, one,
mm,
like everyone is just trying to hustle on their own to make it on their own, to and like how it used to be back in the day when people used to work as a community, people used to live as a community, empower each other and grow together. And what you've said, how we will be able to maneuver this, is when people come together and figure out how to to conquer what is coming, because we need to share insights, we need to come together, we need to pull all our
mm,
knowledge and understanding and our skills and expertise and everything that we have, as you've said, as a community, to be able to move forward. Otherwise, if you work on your own,
mm.
you might make it, but the chances are very minimal, because we're living in a world where we need to combine heads at this point
Yeah.
to be able to make it, which is taking us back to the world where we never got to experience the communal sort of
Mm,
living aspect that you never got to have, which it's interesting and scary because it's something that we're not used to. Where we've grown in a world where trust is an issue, and for community to exist, trust has to be there.
mm.
Wait, yeah, yeah,
I
that's
mean, we have come from, or we have gone full cycle of community-led um, solutions. So
yeah,
let's say something as simple as, oh, I need help to harvest because it's starting to really rain, and if I don't harvest today,
yeah,
all my crop will be spoiled. So what happens? I don't quickly hire more employees. I call
Yeah.
my neighbors. Hey, my neighbors, help. And why do I do that? I do that because I know next time if someone, oh, why would I help this person that is
Yeah.
calling for help? Because next time I might need that help.
Mm. Yeah.
But what
True.
happened was over the last few hundred years, we got specializations that came. So instead of needing people to come and help, you get tractors. Instead of
Yeah.
needing to ask your grandmother for advice on which herbs will help me for my cold, you get a doctor. So all these specializations led to centralization because that
Mm.
was the best way to evolve our knowledge. You
Yeah.
focus on one thing, do your one thing, and sell that value to everyone else.
Mm.
Now, that led to people only relying on these centralized points of solution. So that's what a bank is. A bank is an institution that says, I'll hold your money and keep it safe. And as I keep it safe, I'll also make sure I put the money in the right places.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen over the next few years is most innovation or most knowledge will not come from individual entities, but it will come from communities who have different points of view. And those
Yeah.
points of view will be correct, but slightly different. One farming solution in this part of the continent will be different from a similar farming solution on a different part of the continent. And so
Yeah.
you have a lot of different, a high variety of similar solutions, which can only come through a community-led structure. And we've done this as Africans, as people from the global South, Latin America, Southeast Asia. We've
Mm.
always used community finance or community knowledge to solve our problems because we didn't have these centralized or specialized institutions that we could access to solve
Yeah.
those problems. So that's why I'm saying we've gone full circle. And
Yeah.
you mentioned that without trusting someone, like now you have a stranger who wants to come to the community, you're
Yeah.
saying, but who is this person?
Yeah.
That's what blockchain will solve. Blockchain will say that, oh, we already know that this person's ID is on the blockchain, and this
Yeah.
person's ID has all these transactions. It could be I saved in and invested in a hospital that was built, or it could
Yeah.
be that I have a good credit score, or it could be that I am a respectable member of the community. However you would measure that is put onto the blockchain. And you
Mm.
can come and prove that, hey, yes, I've not been a part of your community, but you can see the way I've lived my life that
Yeah.
is collected on the blockchain is in line with the community values. And
Mm.
so the blockchain will actually create this, the way we used to have small, tightly knit communities that
Yeah.
are, normally it was based by villages. Now we'll actually be able to create a global village where your community doesn't have to be physical.
Yeah.
It can be ideological. You say
Mm.
that as we believe that Bitcoin is one of the best assets and we will work together to invest in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And we will ensure that the wealth that is created from our investments will only go to further the mankind towards an era of abundance. And
Mm.
you don't allow any other community members that come in that don't believe the same thing. And you can get proof to see where have they been putting their money over the last 5 years? What
Yeah.
initiatives have they supported over the last 5 years? Does it prove that they believe or they align with our culture? Cool, join. And that's
Yeah.
how I believe we'll actually build a global community.
I like it. Actually, I like it. It's when you look at it from that angle. Okay, the future is really scary. But if you look at it from that aspect of community and having people that you trust, having people that you have the same belief system
Hmm.
surround working together, it gives us hope that all is going to be well. Because as much
Mm,
as we're working in a world of so much uncertainty, at least me as Faith, knowing that there's Trevor there, there's somebody else there, there's somebody else there, and I trust these people, not because I've interacted with them one on one, but because there's this list of things that I know, and it's an immutable record. It's not this person
mm,
will have just filled the record or changed anything to
mm,
the community. So it's really
mm,
good, and it gives us hope to to ease into the next phase that we're getting into. But now let's talk about decentralization and power.
Mm.
Trevor, who actually controls our assets and our data? Who
Our assets and our what?
our data, our
Our
data, who
data. Oh my goodness. Without going into conspiracy theories,
yeah.
it's always about who has the most customers. Because look at Facebook,
Mm,
or look at Google, or look at Microsoft, or Facebook is now changed to Meta. We use those services daily, literally daily. So
mm-hmm.
what do? They say, okay, now we have data services, cloud services. Um, those are the biggest centralized entities we can think of today. But also we have
Yeah.
governments. Governments own your ID data. Governments own
Yeah.
your land or asset, real estate data.
Yeah.
And the problem is sometimes you may find there's some bad actors inside these institutions. Not that the institutions are bad, but
Yeah.
sometimes you find there's bad actors. And also sometimes you find these bad actors have a lot of control and influence over these centralized entities, our data. So
Yep.
now we're going into a world of extremely detailed information on individuals. Like I'm hearing that soon AI will be able to use like Wi-Fi signals that move through the house to see 3D into your house. I'm like, how the hell is that possible?
That's
Okay.
invasion of privacy.
Yes, exactly. So how would you know that your Wi-Fi provider is not selling security data to someone? So
Wow.
all these innovations are going to come up. All these innovations, if they're powered by centralized entities, will have so many areas of weakness that someone can take advantage of that it's going to be so crazy. So we have to actually think through the fact that these centralized entities already will become more powerful unless we take or make the decisions to support decentralized entities. Now, let's take the
Mm,
difference of a decentralized entity.
yeah.
On this centralized side, you wouldn't know whether someone has changed your land title or who changed your land title details. Maybe it was
Yeah.
even to your benefit. You say that, oh, this land title has a loan, but you want to just remove that it has no loan so that you can get some approval somewhere. Not maybe a big issue, but that's all you're doing. So
Yeah.
you go and bribe someone and they go and change that detail and just delete. But if it
Mm,
is decentralized, it means in order for that person to delete, everyone in the community has to agree.
yeah.
So there might be one bad actor in that community who's trying to find a way to game the system. But
Yeah.
you're less likely, especially if you build your community well, you're less likely to find that all the members in that community that have the right to approve or verify that transaction will be bad
Mm,
actors. And
yeah.
so you end up having an environment where, as opposed to these centralized entities that are going to become much more big and much more powerful over the next few years,
Mm,
acquiring more power and taking, of course, you hope that they will be good. Google used to have the slogan of "Don't be evil." They
yeah.
actually removed it because people are saying that, okay, but dude, you're literally the most powerful entity on the planet. We
Yeah.
use a blockchain instead. And instead of saying don't be evil and hope that the next CEO will not be evil, or the next head of risk, or the next head of the data business will not be evil, you use a database or a technology that ensures that you cannot be evil, which is the
Mm,
blockchain,
yeah.
which is that community sort of governance that
Mm,
allows it to not for it to never be able to be evil. And
mm,
on top of that is also making sure the rules are structured in a way that you cannot go outside these certain rules. So these centralized entities are extremely powerful. We have
mm,
very few people that own
yeah.
most of the world's data. So far, we've not had any mass biochemical, products that have been done using our medical data or well, we've had a lot of stolen data from our ID records. We had a lot
Hey,
of stolen data from our banking records. all of that will be eliminated if we start decentralizing these databases and make it community governed as opposed to governed by individual entities.
Yeah. I like how this conversation from the beginning to up to where we are, like it's circling back to the same thing, the aspect of trust and the aspect of community, because it's through having people that, you know, your close-knit circle. And when we say close-knit, we don't mean like 5 people. It can be a million people, that million people who are a community. We have the same belief system. We're just like, where are you taking our data? What do you want to do with it?
What do you
What
want to do with
are you
it?
selling it? Why are you giving it to somebody else? Because you find this is what I'm saying is all conspiracy. I don't have facts to back what I'm gonna say. Because there are these organizations that we've mentioned, the likes of Facebook, Google, and those, there are few. There are like 5 big ones. Then there are other millions of companies that requires our data to be able to do their day to day. There's this whole story about this particular application that is focused on women health. So it tracks our cycle as women and all of that. And they were selling they were selling our data as women and how our cycle operates and how women behave to other companies. You know, now we don't have control. And if
No
only we
consent, right?
no consent, there's nothing even, you know. But you know what usually happens when we take that terms and conditions, not to give them right to use, just because we didn't read doesn't automatically
Yeah. Oh, yes. Of course.
the
Of
right
course.
to use our data however you want. So you find you got into an application because the way the application was sold to you and the way it's helping you, you like it. So you've even recommended it to other people. So the community for that particular application has grown. But as they are bad actors, even the people who run this application themselves, they are bad actors, because now they've gotten to a point where now they are making money off of the data that they've collected, because data is powerful. Let's be honest. It's right now
It
we live
is.
the era of who has numbers, who, like, it's just numbers in whatever form. If it's money, if it's people, if it's whatever, data is power. So finding that people can be able to use our data for reasons that we don't even know, or areas that we don't, or being used as guinea pigs for some maybe medical research based on what you feel on that particular application as a woman. You're honestly just filling in how your cycle moves, how you feel, what are the changes in your body. So it's really crazy. But as you as I was saying, it circles back to community and having people, because it's through now the community of that particular application that they were able to sue this company. And it's still an ongoing court case. And they were saying people to be on the lookout. There can be compensations for certain for people, because people didn't give consent for their data to be used.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think in terms of community, there are good actors and bad actors. But because these platforms are not built on chain, we cannot be able to pinpoint or to filter who the bad actors are and what their intentions are. But as we progress and applications, I'm sure we're gonna get to a phase where all applications are built on chain, and us as users, we might not even be able to know from the UI.
Yeah.
But obviously, behind the scenes, it's on blockchain, and if we want to siphon all of that, you can be able to get those parts. So I that's just to
Yeah.
segue.
And it's crazy because you might find they may have started off by saying we're here to help women.
Yeah.
And this is the perspective of don't be evil. We're here to help you. But
Yeah.
they could have even been in a situation where they had financial strains. So they have financial strains, they need to pay employees, they need to put food on the table. And they have this asset called data that people are knocking on their door. Hey, I want to pay you. I'll pay you. So
Yeah.
they said they don't want to be evil, but something
Yeah.
happened along the line that probably led to them making that decision. But
I'm
if that
sure.
data was on the blockchain, it would have, the user would have to approve for their individual data to be
Yeah.
sent out. And most
Yeah.
people would not approve. And if they approve, then you pay them something. Hello.
Yeah.
And
That's how.
that's how wealth can be created, because there's so much data that we are giving, but we're not getting
Yeah.
anything back in return for that data.
That's as you've said. We should be able to pick the bad actors in all of these things that we're interacting with. But if also we're not able to, we should be aware of what we're getting ourselves into. It shouldn't be something that has been taken away from us.
Mm,
But we hope we are going to get into a better world now that the technology is here with us and we're seeing more people embrace it. And through conversations like this, that we get to spread the knowledge of what blockchain is all about and the capabilities that
mm,
this technology has, that we get more people into it, and more people are open to the idea of the technology and the positive part of it, because what is
yeah.
usually is the negative part of what blockchain technology is, and what is very much amplified is usually just one aspect of crypto and how crypto is a scam, but that's not
Mm,
even 1% of the technology. The technology
exactly.
has so much more to offer. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Mm,
Let's talk about regulation. You've played a key role in the regulation of blockchain and virtual assets here in Kenya. What would you say that journey has been from your perspective, from the time you got into the Kenyan ecosystem, and we were all operating in a very gray area, not understanding what we can do, what we can't do, how can we scale, how, like, what we didn't know which direction to fully go. From your perspective, how has that journey been from where you got from when you got into the space to up to now that we can confidently say that we are operating in a regulated market, as much as we've not gotten licenses yet? How has that
yeah.
journey?
Wow. Yeah, I've had quite a few interactions with regulators, and over the last, let's say, 10 years, regulators have really improved. Because I remember it must have been like 7 or 8 years ago when we,
Mm,
with Upesi, when we were trying to explain to the regulator that a digital financial services app does not have
yeah.
to have a branch. And so they
Mm,
asked a simple question. Then how do you verify that the
mm,
person who is sending you the money is the person who they say they are? And
yeah.
we had to educate them about what eKYC is. And today we look at eKYC as if it's just a normal thing. You log in, scans your face, you move on.
Yeah.
But we had to
Yeah.
educate them. And that time there was no sandbox in central bank. So um, it was not that easy to tell them that we don't have to see the physical person and see the ID and see them sign, because that's how banks work.
Yeah.
What we do is use a technology that once they've uploaded their ID and they do a face scan, there's a way that the technology helps you know that this is the person who is in the ID and who's doing the transaction.
Yeah.
But the Capital Markets Authority, which is where AlphaBlock is under, has been very, very instrumental because number one, they have a sandbox.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that sandbox is a place where innovations go to be supervised by the regulator, even if there's no license. And
Mm,
they were very open. They were very eager to understand how this solution enhances capital markets penetration. And I would say they took an approach of learning. They said, okay, how does it work? Why not just
mm,
digitize? Why use blockchain? And that was what those are the questions that I kept getting over and over again. But they were willing to allow us to try, and without too much constraint of you must have a group audit, you must have cybersecurity entity auditing you from from Switzerland. they allowed us to actually be a startup, operate with a small cohort of customers,
Yeah.
operate in private while we're ensuring that we're keeping them updated. And I would say that that has helped us tremendously because then we can go to our partners, we tell our partners, yes, we
Mm.
are working with the CMA. No, there's no license, but they are working on a license regime. And over the
Mm.
last few years, we've seen now these license frameworks coming out. There's still a lot of work to be done around it, but it's the conversations we've had. We always have quarterly meetings with the CMA, monthly
Mm.
updates to the CMA, just to tell them this is what we did, this is what we
Yeah.
got out of it, this is what we've learned, this is what works, this is what does not work. And those learnings are what have come into the regulations that we're seeing today.
Yeah.
Although I do believe the technology is still evolving, and it will be hard for the regulator to keep evolving with the technology. So over the next few years, 5 to 10 years, I believe regulators would have a hard time keeping up with how the technology can be regulated while
Mm.
still providing the most value to the consumer and protecting the consumer. Because at the end of the day, I do see that they understand, the regulators understand that this technology can enhance financial inclusion, can enhance capital markets participation, basically can eliminate poverty. I believe blockchain technology will eliminate poverty. But the frameworks that we need to apply to actually achieve this,
Mm.
because we're coming from a centralized point of view, how banks work, how
Yeah.
insurance companies work,
Yeah.
how stock exchanges work, the decentralized perspective is hard to grasp for non-technical people because you have to understand security, you have to understand technology scalability. But
Mm.
the fact that they've been supportive to startups like us, I believe we're definitely on the right path. Take the
Yeah.
example of Nigeria, where people actually went to jail. Like, I would not wish that upon anyone who is supporting decentralized technology and goes
Yeah.
to jail. I, yeah, man, I would not wish that upon anyone. But
So,
it's also true that it has been manipulated and used for bad reasons as well.
um,
So regulators need to be cautious of who they allow to get these licenses or to operate in the markets. But definitely, they've been supportive.
yeah. As we said earlier, that it's like we're circling back to what used to be. You see how we have our freedom fighters who went to jail because
Yes. Yeah.
for they were fighting for independence and fighting for a better world. And as in Africa, it's the same way. We know there are people who have gone to jail because like they've done wrong. They've used the technology
Mm,
for um, the worst case scenario. But there are people who have gone to jail because they're just pushing for what is right. Because decentralization, as we know it, is we are doing away with a system that we no longer trust. So if we don't trust the system,
mm,
is it being forced down our throats to accept it?
mm,
So those
mm.
people who have gone to jail because of fighting for decentralization, for what it is, they are our heroes. They are our modern. They are modern
Agreed.
day.
Yeah.
What
Those
you
are
say?
the modern day freedom fighters.
Yes, yes, they are. What will you say is the role of regulation in legitimizing tokenization?
Yeah, definitely. We have to respect the regulations because the first thing that they do is enable a standard that ensures customer protection. Because they've
Mm,
seen it all. They've seen all the scams. They've seen how these scams started as small ideas and then became a whole $1 billion scam that
yeah,
many people lost money, or data was stolen, or crime was funded through these scams.
yeah,
So there has to be, there has to be a sort of give and take by the industry because you can't build Rome overnight.
you
And
can.
you can't expect maybe someone to learn a new thing overnight either.
Mm,
So we have to work together. We have to learn from each other because they actually ensure that, and this is the experience I've had so far, they still listen to the industry. They
Yeah.
still seek feedback on, oh, how is this structured? How can the public participate to ensure that we have actually heard the perspectives of the frameworks that we are proposing to go into these regulations? Because
Mm.
what that will do is enhance trust from the
Yeah.
public. And if we don't have trust in the from the public on our business models, then we'll still be called a scam.
Mm.
To onboard people onto these platforms, we'll have
Yeah.
to work with other entities that are not on blockchain. And the first question they'll ask is, okay, what did the regulator say about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've gotten to a place where for us to scale right now is because for even startups to get funding, the question that is thrown around right now, that is being thrown around right now is, do you have a license? Because regulation is this, there's a guest who said regulation is a catalyst to growth.
Mm.
And it's through regulation that we will be able to scale, because as you've said, we will be able to tap into a new market of people who are very reserved because they didn't want to get into this uncertain and this skeptical market. But now
Mm.
the regulators on board, everyone is guaranteed of protection because there's due
Mm.
diligence that is being done before a license is issued. And
Yeah, exactly. If it was not for regulators today, most scammers would be billionaires.
that's true. That's true.
Yes.
So, Trevor, do you think Africa is well positioned for tokenization?
We are almost the best position for tokenization
Oh,
because we
I
have
like.
so much wealth,
Yeah.
so much untapped wealth. We
Yeah.
are and also we're also an untapped market for the rest of the world. And if we orchestrate the tokenization of our minerals, our assets, in a way that is community owned, which is really important. If we can ensure all the gold reserves, all the gold reserves, all the cobalt reserves, all the real estate and land is already owned by the community
Yeah.
or by Africans, and then we invite the rest of the world to come into and invest and enhance the productive assets, it
Yeah.
means Africa will actually become the most wealthy continent on the planet, because right now there's a scramble for Africa, and that started a long time ago. China
Started
wants
the,
in, America wants in, France is trying to still retain their power. But if we own our assets first, even if it's data centers, any green assets like our forests, and people want to come in and participate when we're selling
yeah.
carbon credits, when we're selling our data center services, when we're selling our land, or enabling people to come and participate, we will end up riding, as you say, now we hook on and just ride that wave.
Yeah.
So because we are untapped, it's like
Mm.
saying we're coming into the asset class, Africa as an asset class at the bottom. And because
Mm.
everyone wants a piece of it, it means the asset class is going to start rising. But
Yeah.
if we enable an African, every African to own a piece of Africa,
Mm.
and before everyone comes in, then every African will become wealthy.
Mm. Yeah, that's true. We have
Yeah.
enough wealth for all of us. And as you said,
Mm,
scramble for Africa, it has always been there. Right now, it's
yeah.
neocolonialism. And I like what
Mm,
said in this conversation, that it's through blockchain that we're going to be able to pick those bad actors. Because I feel like as Africa, we're always positioned right in terms of resources, in terms of employ, like youth and like labor, the numbers, power is in numbers, as we said.
mm,
We have that, like we have everything as Africans, and we can 100% survive on our own. But
mhm.
because of because of the bad actors that are there, we are not able to live to our fullest potential, because there's a lot of hindrance, because people are getting opportunities and putting them into their pocket, or
Mm.
they're selling us, as we say,
Yes. Selling us off.
we're being we've not consented to that. That's not what I want.
Mm.
And
Exactly.
as we come
Exactly.
to the end of this conversation, Trevor, I usually ask our guests to give us a perception of where Africa is in terms of adoption of blockchain and crypto and tokenization, basically blockchain in general, in terms of a book. So if adoption in Africa was a book, what chapter would you say we're in terms of adoption?
Ooh. In terms of adoption,
Yeah, in
yeah,
Africa.
we are, ooh, we are basically halfway through chapter one. We've just started to get the plot.
Yeah,
We're starting to see that, oh, okay, so this is what this means, but we have no idea where it's going and how much it will affect us.
yeah.
It's basically like 3 or 4 countries that are really adopting it. And how many countries do we have?
If,
So we are very, very early. And mind you, it's also because blockchain itself still has a
yeah.
long way to go to mature.
Mm,
So the adoption will, let's say you're doing a student ID, it will be on the blockchain.
yeah,
Let's say you're doing a meal plan that has certain health benefits, it will be on the blockchain
yeah,
because you'll want your AI to go and verify that, yes, based on your biological metrics, this meal plan is good for you. So almost everything, not almost everything, I think everything will be on the blockchain. And right now we just start with financial services.
yeah.
And we've just started with financial services in a few countries on the continent.
Mm.
So we are literally halfway of chapter one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really good. And if we look at it from the angle that you've put it, the fact that we are 54 countries and only 5 countries get talked about, that's Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, I think Ethiopia,
South
uh
Africa.
South Africa, yeah, and a bit of Rwanda. We're not even
Yeah.
10 in terms of
Yeah.
the on. So yeah, we're in chapter one in the middle. And what you've said about tokenization of all assets, there's a conversation Larry Fink mentioned. That's the conversation that has really been going around in terms of tokenization. And he said that we're getting into a world where every asset will be tokenized. And
Yes.
this
And actually,
is
not every asset, everything of value.
everything
Because
of
right
value.
now, yeah, there's some things that people don't consider assets, like your
Mm,
social media account.
okay,
Social
yeah.
media accounts are very valuable assets.
Yeah, they are valuable assets.
Kabilame is now a billionaire because he sold his social media accounts.
Yeah,
If he
yeah,
tokenized it and gave it to his community and they ride that wave, as we're saying, he'd have created so many millionaires.
yeah, but let what? It's the end of this conversation because the well of knowledge that is here and just different looking at things from different perspective is very mind blowing, to be honest. And I like what you said, everything of value, because there are certain things we don't look at them as assets because we've been programmed to look at assets as these things that we used to learn in school, and these
Yeah.
things, if you did accounts, our listeners,
Mm.
you know, when you're doing a balance sheet, there's just those things that will always be on the on the asset side, and
Mm.
those are things that we view as assets. But I like how you said anything that is valuable will be tokenized. I look forward
Mm.
to such a world, and I hope that we all live long enough to witness when that time comes. Thank you so much, Trevor, for making time to grace our podcast and to share your amazing knowledge on tokenization and AI, and just giving us a perspective of what we should be looking we should be looking forward to seeing in the future, and also just reminding us the aspect of community and why it is important for us to surround ourselves with people who we share the same values. It doesn't have to be the 5 people that you can count in the room. It can be globally, because we're living in a global village right now. So your community, somebody who is in Latin America, somebody who's in Asia, at the end of the day, we need to surround ourselves with people who we share the same values and we believe in the same thing, and we're pushing for the same agenda when it comes to what we want to see the future looking like. So thank you so much, Trevor, for sharing your knowledge in this episode. Please, if you felt challenged or if you gained value from this conversation today, share it with someone who's curious, who's skeptical, or just trying to understand what all this is or where this new technology is headed. So this is SokoChain, and we'll see you on our next conversation.